Blasphemy. And we're still under the section of blasphemous actions. And we're just about to get out of the blasphemous actions when I looked and saw how small this section here is, symbols of blasphemy. When I looked and saw how small this section is, then I said to myself, we should have just finished it last week so we can start with the new section. Yani, we're under the chapter of blasphemy and under the section of blasphemous actions, and then the subsection of symbols of blasphemy. We talked about the subsection of prostrating to a creation with its details, and the subsection of putting the religious material in contact with disgusting materials. Let's take a look here actually at the navigation plane here. So we were on blasphemous actions here. Yani, the main section here, the main chapter is blasphemy. We covered shirk, which is paganism, and atheism, denial of God's existence, covert or overt. We covered belying the religion, yani contradicting the religion. We covered the blasphemy of the heart. And we are here under blasphemous actions. So we covered blasphemous actions is a section under the chapter. And then this section has a subsection. So we covered the subsection of prostrating. And then this second subsection of discarding and staining religious material. And now we're on this third subsection of symbols of blasphemy, which is so brief. Then we're going to get into blasphemous expressions. We should have just, inshallah, had I realized how short this subsection is here, we would have read it last week, so we can start immediately with the blasphemous expressions. So let's finish this subsection here. The author says, Rahimahullah, symbols of blasphemy. The one who hangs a sign of blasphemy upon himself without necessity, such as a cross, yani crucifix, a sash, a collar, or a robe, then he blasphemes. A sign of blasphemy. What does it mean as a sign of blasphemy? It means, for example, when you see that person with that robe, you know he's a kafir. When you see that person with that collar, you know he's a kafir. Like that. You see that person with that cross, you know he's a kafir. Or at the very least, you have warrant to believe he is. Yani, if you thought he was a kafir, yani, that he's a Christian, for example, because he has a cross on, you're not going to be, uh, yani, making a far-fetched assumption. The one who hangs a sign of blasphemy upon himself without necessity. Yes, without necessity, that's what the Sheikh said. Without necessity, like what? Like the way I learned, example I learned is he had to go through a checkpoint and there's Christians there. And if they catch him as Muslim, they believe he's Muslim, they'll kill him, for example. And then out of his fury, he put a cross on so he could cross the checkpoint without harm. Then he doesn't blaspheme. That's what I learned, an example that I learned. Such as a cross or a sash or a collar or a robe, then he blasphemes if. So according to what the Sheikh taught us, not absolutely blaspheming because he hung a sign of blasphemy upon himself. He blasphemes if it were with the intention of seeking blessings from this blasphemous symbol. He seeks blessings from his cross, for example. Or to glorify it. And he honors this symbol of blasphemy. He holds it in high regard. That's blasphemy. Or deeming it lawful. Yeah, he legalized it. Accompanied with entering the blasphemers' places of worship and mingling with them. Yani, any of these, that's why there was a period here. Any of, well, if he deems it lawful, that's blasphemy. If he glorifies it, that's blasphemy. If he seeks blessings from it, that's blasphemy. Or, yeah, here, let's do this one. If he wears this symbol accompanied with entering the blasphemers' places of worship and mingling with them, then that's blasphemy. These three are mentioned in As-Siratul Mustaqim. And this fourth one, let me review. I remember that's in Qawa'id Muhimma. This saying with these details is the strong saying. Yani that these are details here. Did he do it this way or this way or this way or this way? Or did he just put it on without seeking blessings from it, without honoring it or glorifying it, without believing that it was halal, and not entering their places of worship and mingling with them? Then, according to saying that there's details here, which that's the strong saying, this is what we learned from the route of our Sheikh, then without these details, he's not blaspheming. Some scholars said that wearing it is blasphemy without any restriction or details. Uh, so then, number one, an intention of seeking blessings, or glorifying it, deeming it lawful. All of this is from the heart. So then, according to that, it's going to be an action with something in his heart too. If you go by saying there's details here, it's going to be an action along with something in his heart. Similar to what we saw about if someone left something in the trash, he didn't put it there, he left it there. Or some other cases that we reviewed last time, some scholars said if there was also along with it the disrespect in his heart. Merely entering their places of worship is not blasphemy, but it is forbidden when one's presence strengthens those people. And among the sins of the body is entertaining a major sinner or a heretic in his sin. Yes. وَسُبْحَانَ wa bihamdi. Any question there? Blasphemous expressions. The third and most common source of blasphemy is the blasphemy of sayings. What does this mean, source? Because let's look again at this navigation plane. Let's see what we have here of blasphemy. First of all, what do we learn about the uh, types of blasphemy. When we learned the obligatory knowledge, we learned that there's three types of blasphemy. According to the words of the summary of obligatory knowledge, three types of apostasy. What's apostasy? Apostasy is the blasphemy of a Muslim. Yani, a Muslim commits blasphemy, becomes a kafir. According to the summary of obligatory knowledge, there's three types of apostasy. Okay, so, and in the As-Sirat al-Mustaqim, the Shaykh introduced us to another way of categorizing blasphemy. We actually have all the categories of blasphemy right here. According to one method of classification, there are two types of blasphemy. Shirk, that's the paganism, and what's not shirk? Shirk and other than shirk, like belittling the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. Okay, that's a type of blasphemy. It's not a source where the blasphemy is originating from. It is yani a species of blasphemy. The shirk is a species of blasphemy. And there's another type of blasphemy, another species of blasphemy that's not shirk. According to another way of classifying the blasphemy, there's three types. This is what the Shaykh introduced us to in As-Sirat al-Mustaqim. There is tashbih, likening or comparing God to the creations. That's shirk. That is shirk itself. Takveeb, belying the religion, and ta'til, atheism. So according to this, then atheism is not paganism, is not likening God to the creations. According to this, atheism is not comparing God to the creations. Comparing God to the creations is one species of blasphemy, and contradicting the religion is a different species, and atheism is the third species of blasphemy. But I mentioned for you, in order to achieve atheism, you're going to have to compare the creator to the creations. Okay. Then the third classification of blasphemy is divided into three types. The blasphemous beliefs held in the heart, the blasphemous actions committed by the organs of the body, and the blasphemous sayings uttered by the tongue. This is considering the source, the mind of the blasphemy, where it's coming from, what's generating it. The heart is generating this blasphemy, or the limbs, the organs are generating this blasphemy, or the tongue is generating this blasphemy. So that's why we said here, the third and most common source, what's generating this blasphemy, the tongue, is the blasphemy of sayings. I learned that from Hajr, that those three, that's the source of the blasphemy, where it's coming from. Its evidence is the saying of Allah, يحلفون بالله ما قالوا ولقد قالوا كلمة الكفر وكفروا بعد إسلامهم. By Allah, they certainly said the word of blasphemy. No, here. يحلفون بالله ما قالوا. Here. They swear by God, or they swear to God, that they did not say it. What's it? The blasphemy. يحلفون بالله ما قالوا. They swear by a God that they didn't say it. وَلَقَدْ قَالُوا, and by God. And by God, they certainly said kalimat al-kufr, the word of blasphemy. Al-kalima. يقول قالوا الكلمة كلمة الكفر وكفروا بعد إسلامهم, and they blasphemed after their Islam. إن العبد لا يتكلم بالكلمة, indeed the slave will certainly utter the word of blasphemy, كلمة الكفر. Yeah, we could. I just personally don't mind switching up though, especially if that make a person think. But I know that's usually is a standard in English works to like stay consistent in a way like you don't switch between some things. Sometimes I diverge from that, just taking some lessons from some of what I learned in religion, from Arabic, and from some things we learned in religion. So they switch sometimes. Sometimes in Arabic, it's fine when you switch between dialects sometimes. Even the Quran has more than one dialect. It's not all Hijazi dialect. Quran has various dialects, but mostly it's Hijazi. And the Prophet والسلام, and the poets, for example, maybe a poet speaks a dialect, and for the service of his poetry, and introduces something from another dialect or something like that. So I took from that in some spots, something like that. I mean, what that's why also this book has in it actually two transcription systems. You might see a word transcribed one way, like you see Allah with two A's here. In another spot, you'll see the word Allah with one A and an underline. Or you will see the word worshiper with two P's in one spot and with one P in another spot. Two P's is UK, British style. One P is American style. All that is deliberate. Okay, barakallahu fikum. So, يحلفون بالله ما قالوا ولقد قالوا كلمة الكفر وكفروا بعد إسلامهم. They swear by Allah that they did not say it, and by God. They certainly said the word of blasphemy and blasphemed after their Islam. The scholar said there are two kinds of blasphemous expressions, which are apparent blasphemy and explicit blasphemy. Well, let's see these footnotes here. The scholar said there are two kinds of blasphemous expressions. Footnote under there being two kinds of blasphemous expressions. Footnote, there is a third type of statement called muhtamil, potential or possible or conceivable. It refers to what has more than one meaning, but none are more apparent than others. It is sometimes mentioned under the second category, meaning what? There's two categories of blasphemy. This is what we have learned before. Explicit blasphemy, al-kufru sarih, and apparent blasphemy, al-zahir, which means explicit blasphemy means it doesn't mean anything but blasphemy. Apparent blasphemy means the statement has more than one meaning, but what it looks like is blasphemy. The meaning that jumps out at you is blasphemy. So usually that's how we categorize blasphemy. And if you wanted to teach someone without details, just say that much. Like you're teaching obligatory knowledge to someone. Don't say the third one here. Let him learn more and then add for him. Because the beginner does not tolerate details. Although some of you might be beginners. Now, I hope you can tolerate the details. But there is a third kind if you separate it from the non-explicit blasphemy, which is the statement that it has more than one meaning, like apparent blasphemy, but none of its meanings is more apparent than the others. So that's what makes it not apparent blasphemy. But it's not explicit blasphemy. It's not explicit because it can have more than one meaning, but it's not apparent because none of its meanings jumps out more than others. Now, I don't have an example, but that is a type of statement. That's why it's called a statement here. It doesn't say there's a third type of blasphemy. It says here there's a third type of statement. But don't forget, blasphemous statements are unlimited. That's what the Sheikh told us in the summary of obligatory knowledge. La tanhasir. The blasphemous statements are unlimited. You cannot conceive account to how many possible ways you could compose words to express blasphemy. Usually it's going to be explicit or apparent, and some statements are neither of those, not explicit but not apparent. So know that. If it's not explicit blasphemy, you cannot call the person a kafir without knowing he meant the blasphemous meaning. The scholar said there are two kinds of blasphemous statements, and here's another footnote. This is why it is forbidden to answer such questions classified by some as hukm man yaqul questions, the judgment of the one who says. Someone say, I have a question. I have a hukm man yaqulu question. The judgment of the one who says question. That means he's asking about blasphemy. This is why it is forbidden to answer such questions classified by some as the judgment of the one who says questions, unless he knows the religious rules as well as the language of those people. Very important. If someone says to you, like some people say to me, I want to ask you a question about if something is blasphemy or not. Someone said in my language, you have no idea what his language is. Like you don't know how to speak his language. Like some people, they insist on asking me, although I told them, I don't know Urdu. So they insist on telling me, someone said in Urdu, and then they translate. And then, whatever it means in English, that's not really how to give the answer, though. So don't say, oh, that's blasphemy, because if you don't know the language, then you can't be sure that, because you're the one who's giving the judgment. So you need to hear the statement itself and understand it. You need to understand it in the language it was uttered. In case there's nuance there. Maybe it's apparent statement. Maybe it's muhtamil statement in that language. Maybe when you translate it, it's apparent blasphemy, but when in its own language, it's a muhtamil, for example. Or the like. Or maybe it's explicit in one language and when you translate it, it's not explicit. So one must not answer these questions unless he, number one, knows the religious rules as well as he knows the language of those people. Does that person speak the formal language? The proper language? Or another form of the language? Does he speak the eloquent version of that language? The proper eloquent version of that language? Or does he speak another form of that language? Does he speak a slang language, a slang form or sub-variant of that language? And if he speaks another form of the language, then what does he think it means? Yeah. Yani, What we learned is the one who answers these types of questions, he needs to understand the language it was said in, the formal version of the language, and the slang version of the language. He needs to understand both of those. So don't let a person insist on you answering their question about what if someone says such and he's translating for you. If you don't know the original language of that statement, then say, I don't know. I'm not qualified to answer this question for you. The one who does not know must first ask about the meanings, then pass his ruling. Okay? Can ask about the meanings. For me, though, for example, someone's asking me about something said in Urdu, I can't even ask about the meanings. Yani, I don't know Urdu. Don't know the words, I don't know the letters, etc. The scholar said that the mufti should not pass judgments concerning uttered statements unless he knows the idioms, the expressions, the phrases of that town. Like when I told the brother, I translated into Arabic, I told him, put yourself in my shoe. And then he became offended. I was trying to say to him, look at it from my perspective. The idiom didn't translate. SubhanAllah. So, apparent blasphemy. The first is the mere apparent or seeming zahir statement of blasphemy. That with two or more meanings, at least one of which is blasphemous. And it is apparent blasphemy because the first meaning that comes to mind is the blasphemous one. Such as saying, I will not do such and such, even if it is a recommended matter. Yani, so then you hear someone say that, you say, what? Meaning, someone says to you, I won't do it even if it is sunnah. So you say, what? So something jumped out at you. Is it for sure he's committing blasphemy here, though? One might mean that he does not want to fulfill the order of the one who told him to do it. Someone told him, here, put this henna in your beard. Here, wear this izar. Here, put this kuhl in your eyes. It's sunnah. He said, I don't want to. He says, sunnah. He said, even if it's sunnah, I don't want to. So you're going to say, what? Oh, we need to ask about your case. It's not explicit blasphemy here. Even though this statement could carry the meaning of belittling, could carry that meaning, but doesn't have to. Where did this example come from? I will not do it even if it is sunnah. That's from the summary of obligatory knowledge. One might mean that he does not want to fulfill the order of the one who told him to do it, and he did not say it to belittle the sunnah. Then it is not blasphemy. Saying, if Allah ordered me to do something, I would not do it. You might say, A'udhu billah. Or, if someone said, if the Qibla were changed to another direction, I would not pray towards it. Or, if Allah gave me paradise, I would not enter it. It seems, al-zahir minhu. What appears, it seems to be disdain and sacrilege and rejection. And usually, this is what the Sheikh said, and usually such statements would not be but for blasphemy, usually. But it is possible that one might say them to express how sinful and disobedient he is, while believing that these matters are respectable. Meaning, he's saying to you, yeah, you don't know, brother. If the Qibla were changed to another direction, I wouldn't face it. So he's not, doesn't mean to belittle the Qibla. He means to say to you, I am such a sinner. Or he said, if Allah gave me paradise, I wouldn't enter it. So you say, don't say that, brother. Don't say something like that. But don't be too swift and just say he committed kufr here. The Shaykh rahimahullah, he is the one who said, usually, that means not explicit. Usually such statements would not be but for blasphemy. That's in the Bughya. Question. What is the judgment of whoever utters such a statement? Answer. The people of knowledge said that it is not lawful to charge who utters what merely appears to be blasphemy as a blasphemer, unless we know that he intended the blasphemous meaning. And let me add for you here something that should relieve you and relieve others. Sometimes you don't know. Is it explicit? Is it apparent? I don't even know. So then it's like it's apparent for you. Or, Yani, let me not say that. Then it's like it's not explicit for you. Because it's not clear for you that it's blasphemy. Like something comes to your mind, or it sets an alarm for you, this statement. But you're not sure. Is it blasphemy? For yourself, you don't know if it's explicit or non-explicit. Yani, is it blasphemy or it's not even blasphemy? If you want to ask, is this blasphemy? Can you clarify for me? Is it blasphemy or not? And if it is, how so? So when this is your question, that means not clear blasphemy for you. So if it's not a clear blasphemy, then is it necessary for you to ask? It's not necessary. How is it not necessary for you to ask? Because it's not your obligation to know what every statement means. You're not obligated to know the meaning of every statement that crosses your ear and the meaning of anything your eye runs over it. If some statement crossed your ear and you're not sure how to take it, it's not haram for you to say, I don't know what that means, and then forget about it. You don't have to go on a mission to determine if it's blasphemy or not. That's not blasphemy. When you say to yourself in this case, well, if it means blasphemy, then it's blasphemy, then you're safe here. Because what that means is that you do know what blasphemy is. It's just, you don't know if those words refer to blasphemy or not. It's not, when you don't know what those words mean, doesn't mean you don't know what blasphemy is, means you don't know how to take the words. Is it your obligation to decipher every sentence you ever hear? It's not. So is it possible to hear a statement and not be sure that it's blasphemy and not lose any sleep over it and not ask also? It is very possible. If you have any question, feel free. Then you'll relieve yourself and you'll relieve others. Some people ask me, some individuals ask me so many, on an individual basis, so many blasphemous questions that I told them, stop. Why you have no question but blasphemy? When are you ever going to understand the rules of blasphemy? How many years is it going to take you to know the rules of blasphemy so you don't have to ask all the time if something's blasphemy or not? You should, brothers and sisters, at some point in your religious education, you should reach a point where you don't have to ask if something's blasphemy or not, just maybe rarely, just rarely only. The people of knowledge said that it is not lawful to judge who utters what merely appears to be blasphemy as a blasphemer, unless we know that he intended the blasphemous meaning. Footnote. If a person utters an apparent statement of blasphemy, what appears to be blasphemy, we ask him what he meant by it and check his intention. That's not a condition. When it says we ask him, that's not a condition to ask him. Only if you wanted to get to the bottom of the issue you can ask. But you don't have to necessarily. We ask him what he meant. Why? Because the statement can have more than one meaning. So which meaning did you mean? And which meaning did you intend? We ask him what he meant and we check his intention. That's the same thing twice. We ask him what he meant and we check his intention. That's the same thing twice. Some of the Hanafis as well as some of the Malikis said, if a statement bears 70 meanings, 69 of those meanings are blasphemous, and one of them is not blasphemous, then it is not lawful for us to judge the one who uttered that statement as a blasphemer, unless we know that he intended the blasphemous meaning. Correct. 69 out of 70 meanings are kufr. One meaning is not kufr, then you cannot say that the one who said the statement is a kafir without knowing he meant the blasphemous meaning. The use of the number 70 is sometimes done by the Arabs, done by the Arabs to mean a lot or many times. 70 is a figurative number. It's a representative number. It represents a lot. It represents multitudes and not 70 per se. This statement was attributed to Abu Hanifa and some attributed it to Malik. It is not proven that either of them said the statement, although the meaning is correct. If we do not know his intent, we do not judge him as a blasphemer. Wa subhanallahi wa bihamdih. Explicit blasphemy. The second is the explicit statement of blasphemy. Like the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, there's a hadith in which the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam mentions explicit blasphemy. He named some blasphemy as such. He said, alayhi salatu wassalam, إِلَّا أَن تَرَوْا كُفْرًا بَوَاحًا عِنْدَكُمْ مِنَ اللَّهِ فِيهِ بُرْهَانٌ. Do not rise up against the unjust ruler. That's the context of this hadith. Unless you see from him kufran bawaha, explicit blasphemy. That's exactly what it means. For which you have evidence that complies with the religion of Allah. So, the point of citing this hadith here is to give you a proof, a reference for something called explicit blasphemy. And this hadith proves that you cannot rebel against the unjust ruler, Muslim, who's a Muslim. That's the saying of the majority of scholars. As long as he doesn't blaspheme. That's what the Prophet said. إِلَّا أَن تَرَوْا مِنْهُ كُفْرًا بَوَاحًا. Unless you see explicit blasphemy from him, then you will overthrow him. It is what, explicit blasphemy is what only has a blasphemous meaning according to the language. Like saying, I hate Allah, that's from the Sirat. Or using khalq, creating, for the people to mean bringing into existence from non-existence, that's from the Sirat. And ordering another to blaspheme, that's in the Qawa'id Muhimma, just summarize though. Even if the commanded one did not respond. Or someone telling his wife, you are more beloved to me than Allah. That's from the Sirat. Or to say, if Allah punished me for leaving out prayers despite my sickness, he would wrong me. That's from the Mukhtasar. So, explicit blasphemy is what only has a blasphemous meaning according to the language. Like using khalq. So here, it's the English word creating in parentheses, not the Arabic word khalq in parentheses. What's in parentheses means you can remove it. So that means the focus here is really on the Arabic word khalq, not the English word creating. Using khalq for the people to mean bringing into existence from non-existence. And I'm not denying that the English word creating means like that. but I'm not confirming it also. So the focus is on the word khalq here. Footnote: like for someone to say, create such and such for me, like Allah created you. That's what the Sheikh says. That's explicit blasphemy, that statement. And ordering another to blaspheme. However, ordering someone to become a Muslim, here's footnote. However, ordering someone to become a Muslim does not make the one who orders a Muslim. Commanding someone to be a Muslim will not make the commander a Muslim, but commanding someone to blaspheme will make the commander a blasphemer. We covered that already. That's one of the cases by which we know that blaspheming is easier than embracing Islam. Because you could order someone to blaspheme and then you would blaspheme, though you could order someone to embrace Islam and you won't embrace Islam. Both are easy in terms of the conditions, though, the conditions for embracing Islam and the conditions for blasphemy. Blasphemy is easier. Question: what is the judgment of whoever utters such a statement? Answer: one is judged as a blasphemer for saying an explicit statement of blasphemy once he says it, unless he does not understand its true linguistic meaning. So he is saying explicit blasphemy, but he does not know what he is saying. Not that he does not intend to blaspheme, that's another thing. If you've learned the rules of blasphemy well enough, then you know you don't need an intention to blaspheme. That's another thing that makes blaspheming easier than embracing Islam. Although it is possible to embrace Islam. Here's the mas'ala for you. It's possible to embrace Islam without an intention. If you didn't know, I'll repeat for you. How could someone embrace Islam without an intention? Like, because the real condition for embracing Islam is saying the Shahada while believing in it. That's the condition. Saying the Shahada while believing in it. So didn't we learn that if a person committed blasphemy and he didn't know, so he's a kafir, and then he learned about blasphemy, so now he knows what blasphemy is and he agrees with that. He agrees that what is really blasphemy is really blasphemy. He agrees and he believes, and he never remembered that he committed blasphemy himself. But had he remembered, he would reject it and he would clear himself. And then he says the Shahada out of habit. Then he'll be a Muslim. What does that mean? He says the Shahada out of habit. It means he says the Shahada, for example, he says the Shahada believing in it. He says it out of habit means he says it believing in it, not in worship, not inside the prayer, for example. And this is not clear for a lot of people. How would a person say the Shahada out of habit? And would a person say the Shahada out of habit? Meaning not as a worship? One might say, I don't conceive well someone saying the whole Shahada not as a worship. How cave? So, for example, doesn't one of you have the habit of saying, MashaAllah, or Subhanallah, or Ya Latif, or something else? Or Ya Ilahi, or something else? Yes, you do. Someone would have such a habit. And when he says these things, doesn't he believe in it when he says it? He does. When he says, MashaAllah, doesn't he believe in the meaning of that when he says it? Although he says it out of habit, he's saying it out of habit, believing in it. Or isn't it that a person's habit might be to say, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah? Means he says it habitually. And he believes in it when he says it. So this is what it means, like that. So what if somebody, he committed kufr, and he didn't know he committed kufr, and then he learned what kufr is, but he never remembered that he committed kufr, but now he does in his heart renounce all kufr, because he has learned now, and he doesn't want to be a kafir, but he doesn't know that he committed kufr, and then at some point he said, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, and he believes in it when he says it. He's a Muslim. That's what we learned. Why is he Muslim? Because he said the Shahada believing in it. That's it. That's why. Any person who say the Shahada believing in it is Muslim. When I say believing in it, means without holding any kufr. If you have a question, go ahead, please. So, one is judged as a blasphemer for saying an explicit statement of blasphemy once he says it, unless he does not understand its true linguistic meaning. Oh yeah. The Sheikh says in the Bughya, would be good to actually insert that statement. It's an important statement. He said, من حصل منه هذا من حصل منه هذا, the one from whom this occurred. He was talking about saying the Shahada, believing in it. The one from whom this occurred, then he's a Muslim. He said, يعني من حصل منه هذا, يعني means it doesn't, the words themselves, just the bare words, does not mean he made an intention. So one is judged as a blasphemer for saying an explicit statement of blasphemy once he says it. Yani immediately, unless he does not understand its true linguistic meaning. Also, the Sheikh said that one, yani the witness of this blasphemy, the witness to this blasphemy does not always have to rush to deem the other as a blasphemer. One does not always have to rush, that's in the explanation of the Sirat, to deem the other as a kafir, even for an explicit statement. Why? Because maybe he does not know what he's saying. It means when it's explicit, you're going to say, that was blasphemy. Is he a kafir though? Let me not rush. Perhaps he doesn't know what he's saying. Then you say to him, why would you say nothing exists but Allah? Don't you know that's blasphemy? You're saying that everything around us is Allah. That's blasphemy. You say, what? No, I'm saying Allah has power over everything. You say to him, that's not what it means. He said, what? Yeah, isn't that what it means? No, that's not what it. So it became clear he doesn't know what he's saying. So then you don't deem him as a kafir. Therefore, if one says to his wife, I worship you, he blasphemes if he understands that the real meaning of worship is only for Allah. So that's from the surah. But if when he says, I worship you, he believes that in the language the expression means that he loves her extremely, then he does not blaspheme. Like how the people use the word adore in English. Adore literally means worship. But people say, I adore you, means I love to them. It means I love you so much. It really originally means I worship you. Or if a wronged person said to his abuser, may Allah be unjust to you as you have been unjust to me. That's explicit blasphemy statement there. He blasphemes for attributing injustice to Allah the Exalted. However, if at that moment of speaking he understood from may he be unjust to you, may he avenge me. Yani, when he said it, this is what he thought he was saying. The words for him when he's saying them does not mean may Allah be unjust. He is saying, he means to say, in his poor expression, he means to say, may God punish you for wronging me. At the moment he said it, that's what he thought it means. Yani, he thought it means, may Allah avenge me. Then we do not charge him with blasphemy, but we forbid him from saying that. Then it's going to be a case of muqabala. Muqabala. May he be unjust to you as you have been unjust to me. That's a case of muqabala, if you remember the muqabala. Like, nasullaha fanasiyahum wa makaru wa makar Allah. Those statements, if you know them, from the Quran. One of them literally means, if you were to translate it verbatim, they forgot Allah, so he forgot them. It doesn't mean Allah has forgetfulness. He doesn't have an attribute of forgetting. It means they neglected to believe in Allah, so he will leave them in hell. It has an interpretation. And other statements like that. Whoever says, Allah does not tolerate so-and-so, blasphemes, if his understanding is that Allah is unable or that Allah is annoyed. However, if he thinks this means that Allah makes that one low and despicable, he does not blaspheme. Some people, they don't know the best way to say some things. They are weak in this regard. And just because a person grew up speaking a language does not mean he is a master of that language. Hasha, not at all. Therefore, if he says, I know the meaning in the language, but I give it another meaning, or if he says, I know the meaning, but I meant such and such, his reassignment of its meaning has no weight. He is indeed judged as a blasphemer because he knows its meaning, yet dares to utter it. If he says, I know the meaning, but I give it another meaning. Footnote. The ignoramuses who ascribe themselves to tasawwuf, such as those who have deviated from the true path of the Naqshbandiyah and the Qadiriyah, have opposed the leader of the Sufis, Al-Junayd al-Baghdadi, and they have belittled the severity of uttering blasphemy. They do not charge anyone who says, I am Allah, with blasphemy, or anyone who says, the messenger knows everything that Allah knows. They don't charge him with blasphemy. Or if someone says, Allah dwells in people, for example, they don't charge him with blasphemy. The true Sufis are innocent of such trash. Al-Junayd said, had I been a ruler, I would have beheaded anyone who said nothing exists except Allah. This statement was said by the atheistic pseudo-Sufis, and they took it from the old Greek philosophers who believed that the world was one with its creator. Those people claimed that if it were conveyed from someone, that he said the likes of such statements, that it would be interpreted in a way that does not give a blasphemous meaning. Yani, they say, if someone says some of those statements like that, we're going to give him a ta'wil. We're going to reinterpret his statement and then not deem him as a kafir. This is their position, even if such a statement does not accept a ta'wil. Not every statement accepts a reinterpretation. Those people are among the most ignorant of creation. The scholars like As-Subki, Imam al-Haramain, and Habib ibn Rabi' al-Maliki agree that far-fetched interpretations are not acceptable. This meaning was also conveyed from Ash-Shaybani, the companion of Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah ta'ala. Let's finish down to the next heading, inshallah. So, and if someone were to say, I know the meaning, but I meant such and such, his reassignment of its meaning has no weight. He is indeed judged as a blasphemer. Footnote. If a person knows the original meaning of an explicit blasphemous statement, and then he forgets it though, and he thinks it means something that is not blasphemous, then he is not judged as a blasphemer. He is like the one who does not know its original meaning. And he doesn't know it because he forgot it. If a person says an explicit statement of blasphemy but does not know its meaning, if he thinks it is a non-blasphemous, it has a non-blasphemous meaning because of his ignorance of the language, he does not blaspheme. Likewise, if a person thinks that an explicit statement of blasphemy has two meanings, we judge him according to what he intended. For him, it's not explicit. We do not judge that person as a blasphemer unless we know he intended the blasphemous meaning. From all of this, one knows that he should not rush to judge a person as a blasphemer, even for explicit blasphemy. You need to assess the situation and do not panic. Do not panic. If you're ever a person who called one of the sheikhs, for example, asking about blasphemy, and you told him, I was panicking though. I was so scared. I'm sorry. Don't be like that. Don't panic. Then you're going to become unreasonable when you do that. You just say, I don't know the meaning of the statement for sure. I can't even judge him as a kafir, but I want to ask about this and get to the bottom of it. And you don't panic. This is footnotes here. So I'm on footnote 1136. So he would be judged as a blasphemer because he knows its meaning and yet he dares to utter it. It is not valid to make far-fetched interpretations, ta'wilun ba'id, for explicit statements of blasphemy. Footnote. Some people have become negligent and permitted the use of blasphemous expressions, claiming that they have correct explanations. They claim that those blasphemous expressions have correct explanations. An example is what some ignorant pseudo-Sufis who are ascribed to the Shadhiliya tariqah have said in a line of poetry that they recite at gatherings. They say, فَمَا فِي الْوُجُودِ سِوَى وَاحِدٍ or وَاحِدٍ وَلَكِنْ تَكَثَّرَ لَمَّا صَفَى, or something like that. They said there is nothing in existence except one. However, it multiplied when it became pure. That's blasphemy. That's explicit blasphemy. Some of them said that this means that Allah became many by his attributes. That's blasphemy. We say that this explanation is far-fetched, and it's still blasphemy. The explanation itself is still blasphemy, saying Allah became many by his attributes. We say that this explanation is far-fetched. It's a far-fetched explanation, and in this case happens to still be blasphemy anyway. And it has additional blasphemy in it. This line is has the ascription of change to Allah, which is blasphemy, as well as the occurrence of purity in the self of Allah, which is blasphemy. And it has the ascription of Allah becoming many, which is blasphemy. This line of poetry is mentioned in some books and is falsely attributed to Abdul Ghani an-Nabulusi. Our Shaykh sees that ascription to him as perversion and tampering in his books. Yani, it's a lie on him, according to our Shaykh, on Shaykh Abdul Ghani an-Nabulusi. Just as the books of Muhyiddin ibn Arabi have been perverted and polluted with blasphemous statements. The perversion of his books has been mentioned by such scholars as the author of Al-Ma'rudat Al-Mazburah, who is a Hanafi. He said, "We are certain that the Jews have tampered with his statements of Ibn Arabi. Had it been valid, then the application of the laws of the apostate would be nullified. And it had been valid to reinterpret these explicit statements of blasphemy and to disregard the explicitness that they have, to disregard the frankness and the blatant meaning that they carry, and to reinterpret them. Had that been valid, then the application of the laws of the apostate would be nullified. And whoever wanted to say explicit blasphemy would be able to say whatever he wanted to say. And then he would say, the true meaning of my statement is such and such. This is a huge door for chaos, like the one who says, damn the messenger of God. And then he explains the messenger of God as the lightning instead of the prophet. That's from the Sirat.
Assalamu alaikum, Maulana.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Sayyidi, first of all, I had a question about Al-Shaybani. You said he conveyed something. You say he conveyed a similar meaning or something.
Yes.
What was it about?
Let me see here.
I think it was in the footnote.
Says, those people are among the most ignorant of creation. The scholars like As-Subki, Imam al-Haramain, and Habib ibn Rabi' al-Maliki agree that far-fetched interpretations are not acceptable. This meaning that far-fetched interpretations are not acceptable was also conveyed from Ash-Shaybani, but I don't know what his quote is.
Okay.
We're saying this meaning as if to say, we can also infer from some of the talk of Ash-Shaybani that this is his way too, that he doesn't accept far-fetched interpretations.
Mm-hmm. And I kind of got distracted when you were reading the last, what was it, the last footnote? Yeah, the last footnote. There are a couple of, here, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You said this line, this line has the ascription of change to Allah, which is blasphemy as well, as well, the occurrence of, or as well as.
As well as
The occurrence of, which is, what's meant by the occurrence of purity in the self of Allah?
Because it says, وَلَكِنْ تَكَثَّرَ لَمَّا صَفَى.
Subhanallah.
Saying Allah became pure, that's blasphemy.
And it has the description of Allah becoming many, which is blasphemy. يعني تعدد الذات يعني.
They said وَلَكِنْ تَكَثَّرَ. So whatever they meant by it, that's blasphemy. This is inapplicable here. That's blasphemy. Okay. What they're going to mean by it, I don't know what they're going to mean by it. That's not blasphemy.
And this line of poetry is mentioned in some books and is falsely attributed to Abdul Ghani and Nabulusi. Okay. So they this was mentioned in some of his books. It was ascribed to him or whatever.
Yeah, falsely attributed to him. Yeah.
بارك الله فيك سيدي.
آمين وفيك.
طيب الله أنفاسك.
آمين وإياكم. وسبحان الله وبحمده